So now we will discuss about a planning algorithm called graph plan. Right? So before we start, do you have any questions on the basic planning paradigm? Okay, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
So the idea of a graph plan is we want to construct a data structure that encodes the constraints on the possible plans, that encodes certain constraints, and the search for a plan can be constrained based on this data structure. And as we see, the planning graph can be built efficiently given the description of a planning problem. And once the planning graph is constructed, which can be constructed in polynomial time, so we can try to find out if we can extract a solution from the planning graph. Okay. So as we have already mentioned that if we take the conventional approach for applying graph search, because we are describing the states in terms of propositions, and because suppose there are n grounded propositions, then the number of the size of the state space is exponential in the number of propositions, right? And therefore the problem is not efficient. But if we construct this graph, as we see, this graph can be constructed in polynomial time, and this data structure is quite efficient. Now, what is this planning graph? It is a directed graph and it is a leveled graph. And there are different levels. So, two types of alternative layers. The odd layers are the state levels and the even layers are the action levels. So, we have the first state, then action, then another state level, another action level, etc. Okay? So this is how a planning graph looks like. And then there are arcs. Arcs go from one layer to the next layer, and the arcs represent the preconditions, adds and deletes corresponding to certain actions. So in the level S1, there are different propositions. In level A1, there are certain actions which are applicable, given those propositions, a subset of those propositions. And there are arcs which show what are the preconditions of those actions, and the effects of the actions are the adds and deletes. Now, in a real plan, you can only execute one action at a time. However, in the planning graph, we show from a particular state or particular set of propositions what are all the possible actions that can be taken. So in the data structure, which keep track of all actions which are possible from a given state. And we also keep around all possible propositions that could be possibly true at that level. So let us take a very simple planning problem to illustrate this. So the initial state is have cake, and the goal state is have cake and eaten cake. And there are two actions, eat cake and bake cake. For the action eat cake, the precondition is have cake, and the effect is not have cake and eaten cake. For the action bake cake, the precondition is not have cake and the effect is have cake. Right? These are the two actions. And as you can see that for this particular planning problem with this initial state and goal state, a solution is step 1, eat cake, step 2, bake cake. Is this problem clear to you? The description of this problem? Is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the way graph plan works is in two phases. First phase, we create a planning graph. We start from the initial state and contains, as we said, the planning graph contains actions and propositions that are possibly reachable from the initial state. Right? And phase 2 is the solution extraction phase, where we do backward search from the last level and try to see if we can retrieve a plan for this particular graph. So as we saw that we have layered plans, often called parallel plans, right? So we have, when we have say S0, we look at all the actions which are possible, and these actions, though they cannot be taken simultaneously, we note down all the actions. So a layered plan is a sequence of sets of actions. Now, actions in the same set have to be compatible. Now, suppose A0 contains two actions, A1 and A2. So these two actions may or may not be compatible. That is, it may not be possible to take both A1 and A2, at this level. Okay. Now, we have to find out whether A1 and A2 are compatible. So A1 and A2 are compatible if and only if A1 does not delete the preconditions or the add of A2 and vice versa. Suppose, A1 has a precondition P1 and suppose A2 has a precondition A1, but A1 deletes P1. Right? Then A1 and A2 are not compatible. That is, you cannot take A1 and A2 simultaneously, because after you take A1, P1 will be deleted. Or suppose A1 has a positive effect of P2. A2 has a, suppose A2 adds P2 and A1 deletes P2. Okay? Then A1 and A2 are not compatible. So if they are compatible, then all sequential ordering of compatible action gives same result. So there are two situations where A1 and A2 are not compatible. But if they are compatible, you can either perform A1, A2, or you can perform A2, A1, and the result will be the same. Is it okay? So this is an example, this is an example planning problem where this is my starting state. And at layer 1, these are two actions. Move A from top of B to table, move C from top of D to table. So there are two actions, right? So can you tell me if these two actions are compatible? Move AB table, move CD table. So this is the definition of compatible. Can you tell me if these two actions are compatible?
Yes, ma'am, they are.
They are compatible, right? So you can take them in any order and they do not have any interference. I mean, they do not have any of these conditions. So they can be taken in parallel. And then let us say at next level, these are two actions. Move B from table to top of A, move D from table to top of C. Are these two actions compatible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
They are also compatible. Now, so we can give a solution of this task in this 2-layer plan, even though, we can, when we actually develop the plan there, the plan has length 4, right? But it can be, described in 2 layers. You can say move AB table, move CD table, move B table A, move D table C, or move CD table, then move AB table, then move B table A, move D table C, etc. So there are 4 possible ways this plan can be performed. Okay. So this is the idea of a layered plan. Is this clear? Is this okay with everybody? So this is how a planning graph looks like. In the beginning, we have this proposition S0, right? In any, so this is an odd layer. So this is also an odd layer. Let us say we have Sn, we have the set of propositions, and then this is the An is the set of actions, and Sn plus 1 is a set of propositions. Now, how do we go from Sn to Sn plus 1? All propositions in Sn are carried over to Sn plus 1 through the no operation link, right? Or maintenance link. Each proposition in Sn is also present in Sn plus 1. Plus, in the layer An, we identify all the actions whose preconditions are there in Sn. Right? And for each of those actions, we consider their add list. And those propositions are added to Sn plus 1 if they are not already there. So the propositions in Sn plus 1 are all propositions in Sn plus consider all actions whose preconditions are there in Sn. The add list of those propositions are also in Sn plus 1. Is this clear? So in state level n, we have literals that may possibly be true after some n level plan. In action level n, we have actions that may possibly be applicable after some n level plan. Okay. So what can you say about the set Sn plus 1 and the set Sn? How are they related? How is Sn plus 1 and Sn related?
Sn plus action should give us Sn plus 1.
Right, that is okay. Can you tell me what is the size of Sn plus 1 compared to the size of Sn?
Equal.
I mean, it's not exactly equal. It may be equal. Can it be more? Can it be less? So can Sn plus 1 be less than Sn? Can the size of Sn plus 1, the number of propositions in Sn plus 1, can it be smaller than Sn?
Yes.
No, it cannot be, because what did we tell? We said everything in Sn will be in Sn plus 1, plus additional propositions can be added, which are in the add list of the actions. So the size of Sn plus 1 has to be equal or larger than Sn. Is it clear? So tell me if this is clear.
Ma'am, but we also
Ma'am,
have a
what?
delete list.
Yeah, one at a time, please. Yeah. So please go ahead. You're saying something?
Ma'am, we also have a delete list, right?
Yes. We
For an
also
action.
right.
So the size can decrease.
No, but we are only saying that added, what is added, right? So if there is a proposition, suppose there is a proposition here which is P1, there is an action A1, and suppose not A1, not P1, let us say P3. Suppose A1 has a precondition delete P3. Okay, but so A1 deletes P3, but as we said, for every proposition we have a maintenance action, so every proposition is carried over to the next stage. Okay, even if A1 deletes, if A1 is not taken, then the proposition will be there. So what does Sn plus 1 contain? It contains all the propositions that could possibly be true, whether you take A1 or not. So every proposition is carried over, and new propositions which are add list of actions are added. Okay. So by definition of this graph, the set of propositions only can increase monotonically until the graph levels off. That means the graph levels off means Sn plus 1 and Sn are identical, right? Until Sn plus 1 becomes identical to Sn, we keep adding to the propositions from one level to the next proposition level. Is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that is by the definition of this data structure. Also, if you look at the action set, right? So AN is the set of actions whose preconditions are true in Sn. Similarly, if you look at AN plus 1, it is the set of actions whose preconditions are true in Sn plus 1. What can you tell about the sizes of AN and AN plus 1? So if AN, there are two actions. In AN plus 1, can you have two actions, three actions, one action, four action? Can you tell?
We can have more
And two or
actions
more
with
than two.
So
more
AN plus
preconditions
1
also.
will contain all the actions in AN. It can contain additional actions. So as you look at subsequent action levels, the set of actions increases monotonically or stays the same. Similarly, if you look for a proposition at one level and proposition at the next level, the set of propositions increases or remains the same. Right? If it remains the same, we say that the graph has leveled off, because subsequently there will be no more changes. Is this clear? Now, as I told that we have maintenance actions or persistence action, which represents for every proposition, if no action is taken, then that proposition will continue to hold in the next level, right? So maintenance action represents what happens if no action affects that literal. And we include action with precondition C and effect C for each literal C. Now, this is how we construct the graph. The initial layer is the proposition layer, where we keep all the propositions which are there in the initial state description. We start with that. And then at action layer N, if all of an action's precondition, we look at all the possible actions which are applicable given the propositions in layer N. So for each action, if all of the actions precondition are in proposition layer N, then that action is added to layer. How is proposition layer n plus 1 constructed? For each action at layer n, including the persistence action, we add all its effects at layer n plus 1. So we have, for corresponding to every proposition in Sn, right? The persistence action, so each proposition will, through the maintenance action, they will get carried over to layer n plus 1. In addition, for the different actions, new propositions may be introduced. Is it clear? Is it clear with everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, so this much is quite simple. The next, what we will describe, because we are keeping all the actions which can be obtained, but as we saw, all actions are not compatible. So this is the interesting aspect of this data structure. In the data structure, we capture certain mutex information. That is certain exclusivity, mutual exclusivity information, and that is what we will discuss. So pairwise mutex is incorporated into this graph. Now let us take an example. Suppose we have this action stack AB, and the precondition is holding A and clear B. So as I said, we have a graph. So far we have seen what are the nodes in the graph. Now we have to look at the edges. One is the persistence action. We have those edges which we have already talked about. We also have precondition edges. So for this action, these are the preconditions holding A and clear B. So we add these precondition arcs and the effect arcs. So the effect arcs has the add list on AB, clear B, and hand empty. So these are added, right? And I'm sorry, holding A, clear B, stack A on top of B, and the clear B should not be there. This is a mistake. We erase this. And then, but there are two deletes. Holding A and clear B, they are to be deleted, right? Holding A and clear B are to be deleted, but holding A is coming in this layer through the maintenance action, but not holding A is coming from the effect. Not clear B is coming from the effect. So at level 1, S1, both holding A and not holding A is possible, but they cannot be simultaneously true, right? If you take this maintenance action or some other action which does not negate holding A, then holding A will continue to hold. However, if you take the action stack AB, then holding A will not hold. So both holding A and not holding A are possible in layer 1, S1. However, both cannot simultaneously be true, right? So we add a mutex link between holding A and not holding A. Okay. Similarly, when we have clear B and on AB, they cannot be simultaneously true because on AB is obtained from doing the stack AB, which negates clear B. So clear B and not clear B are mutex, but on AB and clear B is also mutex, right? Because they cannot hold simultaneously. So two propositions are mutex at a given level if all ways of achieving them cannot be done together. You see, clear B is obtained by this persistence action. But stack on AB was not true earlier. On AB is been added through the effect of stack AB. But stack AB was also the effect of clearing B. So all ways of achieving on AB is exclusive with, because clear B is mutex with not clear B. And not clear B is obtained from stack AB, on AB, and clear B as also mutex. Okay. So these are two examples of mutex. We will look at all four possible types of mutex. But before that, let us define this. Now, mutex can be between propositions, between actions, etc. So, mutex between pairs of actions at layer n means no valid plan could contain both actions at layer n. For example, stack AB and unstack AB, they cannot both be achieved at a given layer. Right? Both stack AB and unstack AB cannot be achieved because one of them negates the precondition of the other. That we will talk about. So we have to find out what are the conditions of mutex between pairs of actions. We also have to find out mutex between pairs of literals at layer n. So mutex will be defined if no valid plan could produce both these literals at layer n. For example, clear A and not clear A are mutex, on AB and clear B are mutex, and the conditions for mutex for both these we will discuss. Now, graph plan only checks pairwise mutex. Right? It does not look at all possible mutex so that this is efficient. Now, let us look at what are the different types of mutex between actions. Now, there are these 5 types of mutex which we are defining, and then we will illustrate each of them. So, condition 1 is mutex by inconsistent effect. This happens when one action negates an effect of another action. Second type of mutex is interference, where one of the effects of one action is negation of the precondition for another. Third type is competing needs, where one of the precondition of one action is mutually exclusive with the precondition of the other action. Fourth case is negation. One proposition is the negation of the other. Fifth is inconsistent support. All the actions for establishing one proposition are mutually exclusive with the actions of establishing the other proposition. The first 4 are very easy. The fifth, the last one is a little involved because it is slightly abstract, but we will explain all of them one by one. First, let us explain condition 1, which is the inconsistent effect. Now, suppose we take, so inconsistent effect means an effect of one negates an effect of the other. So, suppose you take the action stack AB. In the stack AB, that putting A on top of B, hand empty is added. Whereas unstack AB, remove A from top of B, hand empty is deleted. That is not hand empty is added. So, add hand empty and not hand empty, they are mutex because one is the negation of the other. And because stack AB and unstack AB, the effect of one negates an effect of the other. So these two actions are mutex because their effects are inconsistent. Graphically, we can see we have action A1 and an action A2. A1 and A2 are mutex. We denote it by this gray arc because an effect of A1 is mutex with an effect of A2. In this case, they are negation of each other. Is this clear? Is this clear? Please respond.
Yes, ma'am.
Now let's move to the second condition, that is called interference. If one action deletes a precondition of the other. Suppose this is action 1 and this is action 2, and action 2 has this precondition Pi and action 1 deletes Pi. Okay. So for example, stack AB deletes holding A and put down A needs holding A as a prerequisite. Then A1 and A2 become mutex. Is it clear? If the effect of A1 deletes a precondition that is required by A2, then A1 and A2 are mutex. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
This is called interference. Then the third condition, competing needs. So suppose A1 has P1 as a precondition, A2 has P2 as a precondition, but P1 and P2 are mutex. Then A1 and A2 will be mutex. Okay. So if the preconditions of the two actions cannot be simultaneously be true, then A1 and A2 will be mutex. Okay. So this is the third type of action mutex. Now we look at proposition mutex. So there are two types of proposition mutex. One is inconsistent support. That is, one is the negation of the other. That is hand empty and not hand empty. Right? One is the negation of the other. Clearly they are mutex. The second type is all ways of achieving one via actions are pairwise mutex. So all ways of achieving P1 and all ways of achieving P2 are pairwise mutex. Then also P1 and P2 are mutex. We will take an example. So this is the summary. Inconsistent effect, one action negates an effect of another. For example, eat cake deletes have cake. So is inconsistent with the persistence of have cake. Eat cake adds eaten cake. So it is inconsistent with persistence of not eaten cake. Interference, one of the effects of one action is the negation of the precondition for another. For example, eat cake negates have cake, which is the persistence action for have cake and not eaten cake. Competing needs, one of the preconditions of one action is mutually exclusive with a precondition of another. For example, bake cake requires not have cake, while eat cake requires have cake. So these are for mutex of actions. Then we have mutex of propositions. Two cases, simple case is negation. One proposition is the negation of the other. Second example is inconsistent support. All the actions for establishing one proposition are mutually exclusive with the actions of establishing the other proposition. For example, have cake and eaten cake are mutex in S1 because all their establishing actions are mutex. but they are not mutex in S2, and this we will see when we take this example. With this, let us go back to this simple planning problem that we stated earlier. So initial state is half cake, and the goal is half cake and eaten cake, and there are these two actions, eat cake and bake cake. So in S0, we have half cake, right? But we have two actions, eat cake and bake cake. And, so we add, we add not eaten cake. So half cake and not eaten cake, these are the literals from the initial state that we put in S0. Then we look at A0. Now, what are the actions? We have eat cake action. Eat cake has precondition half cake, and bake cake has precondition not half cake. Because in the first state, half cake is true, only eat cake can be applied. Right? The second action is not applicable. Okay. So eat cake is there in the A0. So level A0 has actions whose preconditions are satisfied in S0, including no-ops. So this action is also there, no-op of half cake, no-op of not eaten cake, and the action eat cake. Okay. Now, what is the effect of eat cake? The effect of eat cake is not half cake, okay, and eaten cake. Now, eaten cake and not eaten cake are mutex. Half cake and not half cake are mutex. Also, you note that, eat cake achieves not half cake. And you notice these, eat cake and this maintenance action, they are mutex. Why is this mutex with eat cake and the maintenance of half cake? Because eat cake negates not half cake. And therefore, eat cake and this cannot take place simultaneously. Similarly, eat cake is also mutex with not eaten cake because the effect of eat cake is eaten cake. Eat cake is eaten cake. So these two are mutex. So half cake and eaten cake, why are they mutex? Because half cake is achieved through this no-op in the maintenance of half cake, which is negated by eat cake. So half cake and eaten cake are mutex. Similarly, we can also see that not half cake and not eaten cake are mutex because the ways of achieving them are mutex. Right? So we first, given S0, we find what are the actions possible in A0, and we add all their add lists and delete lists to S1. Then we identify all the mutex. There are 5 types of mutex. Corresponding to that, we check for them, and those links are added. Next, we now put A1. In A1, we also have eat cake, but we also have bake cake because not have cake is there, so which is a prerequisite of bake cake. So in A1, we'll include both bake cake and eat cake, and we have to work out what are the different mutexes, which also become clear after we have got S2. So S2 will contain all the propositions which are true there. As you can see, S2 and S1 are same. No new proposition has been added, but A1 has added some new proposition. So after this, the A3 and A3 will have the same set of propositions as A1, and S3 will have the same set of propositions as S2. So an action at level AI must have support from a set of literals in the previous state SI that have no mutex relation among themselves. Now this graph expansion we will stop when the set of literals has not changed. So if we continue, we'll see that S3, we will get the same set of literals. So we need not go any further at this point. Now, what is our goal? Our goal is half cake and eaten cake. So we will stop if the current state contains all the literals in the goal and they are non-mutex. Then only we can stop. After we stop, we try to extract a plan from the planning graph. So this is the final planning graph we have for this problem. S0 we have half cake and not eaten cake. A0 has eat cake. S1 has half cake, not half cake. Eaten cake, not eaten cake. A1 has baked cake and eat cake. S2 has half cake, not half cake, eaten cake, not eaten cake. And these are the actions. These are the persistence actions. These gray arcs are the different mutex, which is interference. In this case, is interference and inconsistent effect. Then half cake and eaten cake are mutual exclusion for inconsistent support, which means all ways of achieving these two propositions in the previous state are mutex. But note that half cake and eaten cake are not mutex in S2. S1 contains both the goal propositions, but they are mutex. That is why we have expanded the graph. At S2, we find half cake and eaten cake are there, but they are not mutex. Now, can you answer the question? Why is half cake and eaten cake mutex in S1, but not mutex in S2?
Because
Can
the
you answer this?
only action in A0 that can be performed is eat the cake. So if I eat the cake, then I will not have the cake. And if I do not take that action, then
there are actually three actions. Just a correction, there are three actions: maintenance for half cake, maintenance for not eaten cake, and eat cake. There are three actions. Half cake is obtained from maintenance of half cake, and eat cake negates half cake. Now eat cake and these are mutex. So eat cakes has eaten cake is obtained from eat cake. Half cake is obtained only from the maintenance of half cake, and these two actions are mutex, right? However, in S2, half cake is also obtained from baked cake, and baked cake and eat cake are not mutex. Is this clear?
yes, ma'am.
So in S2, half cake can be obtained either from maintenance of half cake or from baked cake. Now maintenance of half cake is mutex with eat cake even at this level. But baked cake can also give you half cake, and eaten cake is obtained from this eaten cake is obtained from maintenance of eaten cake, which is not mutex with baked cake. So there is a way of having half cake and eaten cake which are not mutex at layer 1. Previous layer, they are all. This is inconsistent support. And this inconsistent support is not there in layer 2 because there is a way of obtaining eaten cake and half cake which are not mutex. Okay. Now this is the algorithm for graph plan. So you construct the initial planning graph and then your goals are the conjuncts. No good as an empty hash table, initially empty, and then if you layer wise you expand the graph, and if there is a layer ST where the goals are present and they are non-mutex, then you try to extract solution from the graph. But if when do you stop? If graphs and no goods have both leveled off, then return failure. So no goods are those which cannot be achieved. And then if it is failing, then you try to expand the graph again. So I will not go into the details of the solution extraction, but I will tell you the brief idea. Suppose at this level, suppose these are the two propositions for goal, G1 and G2. Now, so both of them have to hold. So you do a search, backward search, where you look at all ways of achieving G1, right? And all ways of achieving G2. So if you look at G1, so G1 can be achieved through these two ways. One is through this action, the other is through this maintenance action. Right? So this is one way of achieving G1, this is the second way of achieving G1. So you look at search, all ways of achieving G1. So you do a backtracking search, and for each of this, you look at, so G1, if it is achieved through this, you now look at how this is achieved in the previous state, all ways of achieving that. Similarly, for G2, you look at all ways of achieving G2. Right? So like this, you continue until you are able to find out that, in this level 0, they can be achieved. So you do a search backward from G1 and G2, looking at all possible ways of, achieving G1 and G2, that is the branching factor, and they are achieved from the previous layer. In the previous layer also, you look at all possible ways of achieving that, that is a branching, and you stop at layer T. So, some of these paths will be failure at layer T because of this mutex, then you will backtrack. If you are able to reach layer 0, where all of them are achievable, then you can extract the plan. So the start state is the goal set at the last level. Actions are conflict-free ways of achieving the current goal state. Because you have already marked the mutex, you can know that when you have to backtrack if the mutexes are there. But if you have ways of achieving without mutex, then you can proceed. And terminal test is when you reach the first layer S0 with the goal set. Okay. So, of course, when you do this search, even so, you may ask that if you are doing the search anyway, why not do regression search? The answer is because the mutexes are marked in the graph, the searching becomes much more efficient because you can identify failures early. The difference between graph plan solution extraction and original regression-based backward search is that because the exclusions are marked, between the actions and between the propositions at different levels, this search becomes much more constrained and efficient. So, to summarize, the important ideas in graph plan is that the plan graph can be constructed in polynomial time. Though the construction can be a little expensive when there are a lot of objects and therefore many propositions, because the propositions are, all instantiations by, replacing the variables with the object. The plan graph captures the important properties of the planning problem, especially what are the literals and actions which are unreachable, which are reachable, to these mutex actions, mutex propositions, etc. So it significantly prunes the search space, right? Because it prunes the search space, and because we saw that the set of propositions monotonically increases, set of actions monotonically increases, the plan graph itself can be constructed in polynomial time, and because of the mutex markings, the extraction of plan becomes very efficient. And by use of good heuristics, you can make it quite efficient. So this is the one example problem. I will leave the slides with you, which you can work on as your assignment, so that you have understanding of how graph plan works. Right? This is the initial state is tire is flat. There is a spare tire and so on. And the goal is at spare axle. So, and these are the actions available. So this is a exercise that you can do to apply graph plan and construct the planning graph for this problem. So this is an exercise I leave to you. You can do this exercise, and then if you have a problem, then we can discuss. And as I said, I will not go through the other planners, but just to mention that SAT plan is a very popular planner, where we formulate the planning problem as a constraint satisfaction problem. Suppose, and just a sketch of how it is done. Suppose the plan has k actions. We can create a binary variable for each possible action, where action AI is true if action A is used in step I. And then we can create variables for each proposition that can hold at different points of time. Proposition Pi, which is true if proposition P holds at step I. And then we can impose the constraints. Only one action can be executed at each time step by putting XOR. We can have constraints describing the effect of actions, the persistence rule. If an action does not change a proposition P, then P's value remain unchanged from time step I to time step 1, and so on. Based on this, we can write a formula, and after writing the formula, we can feed it to a CSP solver. So there are certain CSP solvers which are available, and we do not get into how the CSP solvers work. But given this formulation of the planning problem, we can give it to the CSP solver. And if the CSP solver is able to solve the problem and it will give you the solution, from that solution, the plan can be retrieved. So this is in brief the process. Right. So this is about what I wanted to cover about classical planning, introduce the basic ideas, and introduce the algorithm. So we talked about the graph plan algorithm. So this is one algorithm that you should be familiar with. Now, I think today evening we have another class. In the next 2 hours of classes, I will talk about probabilistic planning, especially stochastic planning, using a Markov decision process. So briefly introduce that. And also we will discuss if you have any questions on this topic. Okay, so we stop here. If we have, because we don't have time, if we have questions, we can take it in the evening when we have a class.